Okay, do you see my screen?
I see Mom's big head. Oh, there we go.
Dad, what the heck?
Can you see it?
What is this?
Yeah, I can see it.
Sarah, that
Okay.
was super mean. Oh my
What?
God. She said, I see Mom's big head.
But everyone can see my slideshow now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Grandma, can I have
My
one?
presentation. Hey, everybody listen.
Anna.
Okay.
My presentation is called A True, notice all caps, Inquiry into the Origins of Myrtle Rust in New Zealand, or where did this yellow stuff on my plants come from? Okay. So I'm clicking and it's not going. Why is it not advancing? Oh, there we go. So an overview of my presentation. This is what we'll be covering today. What myrtle rust is, and then what it isn't. We're going to talk about the origins of myrtle rust in New Zealand. First, the usual explanation, and then my explanation based on careful study and painstaking objective analysis. And that's going to cause us to take a second look at the usual timeline, and then my adjusted timeline based on careful study and painstaking objective analysis. Okay, so what is myrtle rust? The government of New Zealand tells us that it is a fungal disease.
Hey, just a moment. I need to pause. It would appear Anna has left the meeting. It would seem of not her own volition. Here she comes.
Can you see it? Hello?
Yes, we're all thumbs upping.
Okay. A true inquiry into the origins of myrtle rust in New Zealand, or where did this yellow stuff on my plants come from? Overview, we already went through. So what is myrtle rust? A fungal disease. Oh, I took the double that out and it's still there.
That's okay, big fella.
All right.
Double this, double that. Double this, double that.
A fungal disease that only affects plants in the myrtle family. Now, first of all, that's got to really stink. For the myrtle family, I've been to their plantation with Elizabeth in December. We stayed in, hey, I'm going to turn on my pen and show you. We stayed in this room. That mansion is haunted, by the way, on the plantation grounds. But I digress. Can you imagine being a member of this family and knowing that only your plants are affected? So,
Maddie's dead.
let's get back. So according to a website from Australia, myrtle rust attacks soft, actively growing leaves, shoot tips, and young stems. So now let's talk about what myrtle rust isn't. It's not actual rust, right? Rust is a reddish, brittle coating formed on iron, not on plants. This would be an example of scientists misusing words and confusing people. It's not real rust. Myrtle rust is also not to be confused with turtle dust, a nutritional supplement for box turtles. The manufacturer of this product says, just sprinkle this dust onto insects before feeding them to your turtle. And combined with the dietary value of the insects, it will complete the nutritional requirements for your pet's feeding needs.
Turtle dust.
Okay, what are the origins of myrtle rust in New Zealand? Well, we have a scientist, Madeline Marshall, who presented at a conference on biosecurity in New Zealand, and someone asked her the question, how did it get here? I quote, "The prevailing theory is that it wind dispersed across the Tasman Sea from Australia. There is no counter argument." So to visualize this, wind dispersal across the Tasman Sea from Australia. Our scientists said there is no counter argument. Or is there? This is the topic of my presentation. I'm going to propose a new theory. that it was wind dispersed, but the opposite direction from New Zealand to Australia, which would then beg the question, how did it get started in New Zealand? And that is the subject of my presentation. So if it's wind dispersed, you need to find a place with, wind
To fly.
So the government of New Zealand maintains weather stations throughout the country, and I analyzed data from all those stations, and something about the one in Christchurch stood out. If you look at this information, it is undeniable that the wind blows in Christchurch. Every month, January through December, the wind blows in Christchurch. Therefore, this must be ground zero. So working out from there, I conducted a sophisticated and elaborate set of delimiting surveys to put together a trace list. And we can visualize that trace list in the form of a network for how the wind spread myrtle dust from Christchurch to other parts of New Zealand. In cooperation with disease specialists in other countries, we were able to share data and start putting together a global trace list for how the wind blew it from Christchurch to other countries, and then it got caught in the jet stream and started being spread throughout the world. So this was our initial data, but we've been updating it over time. So we're always updating it. And the next slide shows you the current picture. So on this slide, we have several nodes and hubs, right? So we have residential nodes, we have urban nodes, we have continental nodes. An example would be Europe is one big node. We have intercontinental nodes as indicated by the triangle between Europe, North America, and South America. So we have quite a network here. Now, no, this is a presentation. We will question and answer at the end. Okay, so as I analyzed this data, I had to realize that not every climate is suitable for the growth and spread of myrtle dust. So I looked closely at areas and times where the spread of myrtle dust was not climatically suitable.
It's myrtle rust.
Myrtle rust, not turtle dust. Now, if you pay close attention to places where myrtle rust made big leaps in areas or at times when it was not climatically suitable, then we can conclude that it was human mediated. In other words, humans carried it from one place to another. And by conducting that analysis, I was able to narrow it down to 7 specific hubs. And these are the hubs. So, I had to come up with a series of hypotheses for what the significance of these hubs was. So I tested numerous hypotheses, and one of them gained traction, and that was that this is a flight itinerary. So cross-referencing the data from my network with data from major airline companies, we found only one person in the world who followed this particular flight path. And it just happened to be our scientist who said that it blew from Australia to New Zealand. So in my study, I decided to take a closer look at Maddie as the actual origin of myrtle dust.
Rust.
Myrtle rust, not turtle dust. Myrtle rust, right? So I had to drill down a little more on the meaning of myrtle rust. That's just a nickname. The scientific name is Puccinia sidii. So let's break this up. Well, hey, stop yourself. So let's take these one word at a time. So the first word, Puccinia. According to the eminently reliable Wikipedia, Puccinia is a genus of fungi. Now, that reminded me of something else, mushrooms, a fungal growth, according to dictionary.com. Now, I quickly saw the connection, and that led me to the obvious conclusion that Puccinia means mushroom. So Puccinia, mushrooms. So now if we move to the next word, Sidii, according to the academic journal Pediatric Research, Sidii is a guava leaf extract liquid. In other words, guava juice, right? So based on my extensive and detailed scientific research, I concluded that myrtle rust is a compound of mushrooms and guava juice. And when you combine those, you get the plant pathogen known as myrtle rust. So my next task was to see if there was any evidence for those two elements combining in connection with Maddie, whose flight path created our hubs. So I conducted another extensive set of delimiting surveys with Maddie. I contacted her directly to address the mushroom angle. I presented her with a list of 5 edible things in no particular order and asked her to order them in order of her preference. And you'll see that she put mushrooms as number 1. Now, as soon as I realized that I was most likely to get the answer I was looking for, I asked another follow-up question. Do you like mushrooms? And you can see her answer, more than a human should. So I probed further, how often do you eat them? Every other day-ish. So we can conclude that Maddie, in every week, consumes mushrooms multiple times. So this covers the Puccinia part of Puccinia sidii. So then I decided to do another delimiting survey and examine the sidii. I asked her some more questions. During your time in New Zealand, have you consumed guava in any form?
I'm imagining you getting these questions.
Unequivocal, yes, and voluntarily offered that it was in juice flavor. So I objectively asked her to provide the month and the year for each instance where she consumed guava in liquid form. Now I'm going to activate my pen. I want you to notice that initially it was unequivocal. Yes, I consumed guava juice. I suspect that somewhere around here, she caught on to what I was getting at, because you'll notice she becomes evasive. I literally couldn't even guess. And then there's a chance I probably didn't do it at all. Well, that is inconsistent with what she said before she caught on to where I was going with this. So I just hit her straight up and asked, are you hiding something? And she admitted, yes, I am. So it is clear that myrtle rust did not originate in Australia and blow to New Zealand. It originated in New Zealand and blew to Australia. And we know how it originated in New Zealand. Maddie ate mushrooms, drank guava juice, and then went outside and coughed on a plant. So there was only one problem remaining that I had to address scientifically. The timeline. According to the authorities in New Zealand, the first discovered case of myrtle rust in that country was May of 2017. Maddie did not arrive in New Zealand until September of 2018, and then you can see a few other milestones in the history of myrtle rust in New Zealand. To address this discrepancy, I used a sophisticated piece of machinery called the Adjustimator 2000. This machine has one specific purpose. It is to take something said by a scientist and translate it into the truth. Now, it is so sophisticated, it works on a trilateral system of trilateralization, which means you can't just input one piece of data. You have to input 3 different data points so that it can trifectize the data and come up with an algorithm to produce the truth. So I had to conduct even more delimiting surveys to get 3 points of reference from Maddie in terms of time. The first thing I did was go to her Facebook page, and you'll notice that the month is July. It's timestamped July. But she is saying that that is winter and that it's Christmas. Now, I'm pretty sure that Christmas is in December, but being a scientist myself, I decided to be objective about it, so I consulted a calendar and confirmed that winter indeed starts in December and that Christmas is indeed in December, not in July. So there's my first data point. When Maddie says that something happened in a particular month, she is 5 months off. So I needed 2 more data points. So I contacted Maddie for another survey and asked her simply to type the day and the time in a response to me. So she did that. She said it was Thursday at 10:08 a.m. Now you can clearly see by the timestamp in the app that it was not Thursday, it was Wednesday. So that's my second data point. When Maddie says something happened on a particular day, she is 1 day off. My third data point comes in the time. She said it was 10:08 a.m. when in fact, you can see from the timestamp in the app, it was 5:08 p.m. So now I have 3 data points: time, day, and month. When we put those into the Adjustimator 2000 and it runs its sophisticated computational analysis, we get 17 months.
Uh-oh.
So if we go back to our timeline, we see that the period between the supposed first discovery of myrtle rust in New Zealand and Maddie's arrival is exactly 17 months.
Uh-oh.
Now, I know there's an alternate theory for how it happened, but this is the way that myrtle rust originated.
Oh, no.
The end.
Finn.
Oh my gosh. Do we have a scientific rebuttal?
No, this is the way. You saw it. This is the way. Mute Maddie. Mute her now.
I have one question about the timeline.
We're not taking questions.
Well, it's
This is the way.
crucial.
This is the way.
See, you're saying that that myrtle rust is first to Australia from New Zealand. Then could you possibly explain why it arrived in Australia in 2010?
Well, we would have to put their data points into the Adjustimator 2000.
Hey,
Come on, Maddie. Come on.
of course. Silly me.
This is too good. Mom, I need you to look at the video that you're recording now, and I need you to record where Dad says Maddie ate mushrooms, drank guava juice, and coughed on a plant.
And then when it changed to his diagram.
Yes, I need that to rewatch.
Maddie,
Okay.
I've been working on this for a long time.
Yeah.
And every time I talk to you, it evolved.
Poor Maddie. Poor Maddie with those messages.
Do you like
When
mushrooms? Freaking, are you hiding something?
Apparently Dad said to Mom that Maddie probably knows what I'm doing. I'm like, I have no idea what the frick he's doing. He's asking me about mouse, cheese, and cockroaches.
And guava
When's
juice.
the last time I drank guava? I drank guava. Who knows when they drink guava? It's just in stuff.
Oh no.
Oh, he's too good. Oh my goodness gracious.
Oh, that was really good, Dad. You outdid
Yeah.
yourself.
It's very, very good.
When I watched Maddie's presentation, as soon as she said there is no viable alternative or something, I thought I have got to challenge that.
I'm glad I just watched Maddie's video yesterday. I'm glad I did.
Oh, good. So it's all fresh.
So I could watch the rebuttal.